Shkolim, Perek Daled, Mishnah Daled. Moisar Turuma Ma Hoya Oisin Ba. The remainder of the Truma explains the Bartanura. This was the remainder of what was left over in the bags that they had collected from the chamber, the Chatzi Shkolim, to purchase the communal offerings. If there was something left over when it came to the following Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and from then on the new coins needed to be used to purchase the korbanos. So if there was anything left over remaining in the bags, the Moisa Truma, the coins of course being taken from the chamber with the Chatzi Shkolim, so if there was anything left remaining in these bags to purchase the korbanos, what did they do with those coins? Says the Mishnah, Rikuye Zov, sheets of gold. They made sheets of gold out of this. Tzipui lebeis koche hakodoshim, as a covering for the, as the Bartanura says, for the floor of the walls of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. This is what they used those coins for. Rabbi Shmuel Omer Moisa HaPeiritz Lekayitz HaMizbeach. In the previous Mishnah we learnt a machlokas between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Shmuel said that they would purchase wines, oil, flour from the leftover Chatzi Shkolim that were in the chamber, and those items, all coming under the word peiros, although it applies to wine, oil, flour, they would purchase those items and then sell them on to individuals who needed these items for their own personal korbanos. And thereby the Beis HaMikdash would profit from the buying price and the selling price. That's what Rabbi Shmuel said. Rabbi Akiva said, no, you can't do business pasnished. It was a kanai for the Beis HaMikdash to have a business and thereby earn this profit. Rabbi Shmuel said, from this profit that they made, from the wine, oil, flour, what did they use that profit for? It was used lekayitz hamizbeach. We've mentioned this mentioned the kayitz hamizbeach before. These were korbanos oilos that were brought when there was a slack period, there was no korbanos being offered. Then these oilos would be bought, and this was the source where they received the money from, this profit that they'd made. As the Bartanura explains, the kayitz hamizbeach, as one would have like dessert at the end of a meal, similarly once all the korbanos had been brought and there are no other korbanos being brought that day, they would offer up oilos, burnt offerings. The Gemara says in Shavuos that the word kayitz actually means dried figs, and just as dried figs might be used and eaten at the end of a meal, that's why these were called kayitz hamizbeach. Rabbi Shmuel continues, Umoisa hatruma, the remainder of the truma, those were the coins from these bags from which they were buying the korbanos, when it came to Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Moisa hatruma l'kli shoris. These were used to purchase any utensils that were needed for the Beis HaMikdash. Rabbi Akiva says, Moisa hatruma, whatever's left over from the bags where they collected the coins from the chamber, the Chatzi Shkolim, Moisa hatruma, that goes lekayitz hamizbeach, for these offerings, these oilos that were brought when no other korbanos were being brought on the mizbeach. Moisa nesochim lichli shoris. The Moisa nesochim, explains the Bartanura, are or this money would come from the purchase of the treasurer. The treasurer would buy wine, flour and oil that they needed for the communal korbanos. The Loshen Nesochim is used to cover all of that. They would fix the price with the seller, and it was always advantageous for the Beis HaMikdash, which meant the following. They'd fix the price to purchase these items. If the price went up, the Beis HaMikdash wouldn't lose. They'd fix the price and they would get at that lower price. If, however, the price dropped, it became cheaper, then the supplier would have to supply at that cheaper price. Which meant, for example, if one seller would buy 3 so'or, that's a volume, and then the price dropped and one seller would buy 4 so'or, then from that seller that the Beis HaMikdash had provided, expecting 3 so'or, the Beis HaMikdash would receive 4. What did they do? They'd calculated they only needed 3 so'or, for example. The extra so'or that they had, they could sell on. That extra, the amount that they'd gained, would go lichli shoris, to buy utensils for the Beis HaMikdash. Also, when the supplier supplied these items to the Beis HaMikdash, the items being the wine, oil, flour, they would have to supply in what they call a heaped fashion, slightly more than the actual required and bought amount. That extra amount, the heaped volume, if you like, was levelled off by the Beis HaMikdash and again could be sold. So there were these 2 areas that could be sold on, and the money gained from that would be used to purchase kli shoris. Rabbi Chananya Sagana Kohenim Omer, Moisa Nesochim, whatever's left over, whatever's gained from these Nesochim, they'd bought the Nesochim, and as we explained before, if there was more of these items available because, for example, the price had dropped and they'd received more, the money that they'd gained would go lekayitz hamizbeach, for the oilos that were brought when no other korbanos were being brought. Moisa hatruma, however, says Rabbi Chananya, whatever remains from the coins that they'd collected in the bags to be able to buy the korbanos, when it came to Rosh Chodesh Nisan, that would go lichli shoris, to purchase the utensils, in reverse of the view of Rabbi Akiva. But they both don't mention an item that we mentioned previously. The Rabbi Yishmael mentioned Moisa Peiros. Moisa Peiros were the items that the Beis HaMikdash had bought specifically to sell on to others. Rabbi Yishmael said you could do this and the Beis HaMikdash could profit. So we need to know what that was used for. However, concludes the Mishnah, Zeh v'zeh Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Chananya Sagana Kohenim, they both don't mention Peiros because lo hoyu moedim b'Peiros. They said you could not buy these items specifically to be sold on to other people because it was a ganai for the Beis HaMikdash, and therefore those items aren't mentioned because there was no profit coming from them, because they actually did not buy these items to sell on to individuals.